What's up, you guys? Jason here with another fun place to visit. Today, let's talk about something surprising: Iran's empty coasts. When you picture a country with thousands of miles of coastline, you expect lively beaches and bustling towns. Think Italy or California. But Iran, with over 1,500 miles of southern coast and 450 miles in the north, is different. Its coasts are mostly empty, vast stretches with hardly anyone living there. Why? In a world where coastal real estate is gold, why are Iran's shores so quiet? Let's dig into the geography, history, and culture to uncover the mystery of Iran's lonely, beautiful coasts. Join me as we explore what makes these shores some of the world's best-kept secrets. Iran's coasts are split between two worlds: the lush green Caspian in the north and the arid, dramatic Persian Gulf and Sea of Oman in the south. The Caspian coast, called Shamal, is famous for its forests, rice paddies, and tea plantations. A favorite getaway for Iranians, but not densely built up. The land is a patchwork of villages and farms, not sprawling cities. Head south, and you find a stark contrast: rocky mountains, desert sands, and turquoise waters. The southern coast is hot, humid, and home to major ports like Bandar Abbas, but between them, it's mostly untouched wilderness. Fishing villages, mangroves, and remote islands dot the landscape. Both coasts are stunning, but for different reasons, they remain far quieter than you'd expect. This contrast is what makes Iran's coastline so fascinating. You might wonder, why focus on Iran's coasts? Because behind the headlines, there's a human story: how people adapt to nature, history, and being challenged. Iran's coasts aren't about politics, they're about culture, food, and the rhythms of daily life. Why no beach culture like Brazil? What do coastal Iranians eat? What are their traditions, and why are these guys sitting on poles? These questions reveal a side of Iran few outsiders see. A place of opposites and untapped potential. For the curious traveler, it's a frontier: wild, authentic, and full of stories. Let's dive in and discover why these coasts remain so empty and so beautiful. Let's start in the south, where Iran's coastline meets the Persian Gulf and Sea of Oman. Here, the land is extreme arid plateaus crash into the sea, and the Zagros Mountains create rugged, inaccessible shores. The climate is punishing: scorching heat, crushing humidity, and almost no fresh water. Only a few cities, like Bandar Abbas, exist where the land allows. In between, vast stretches are empty, too hot, too dry, too wild for large settlements. The southern coast's beauty is raw and virtually untouched, but it's always been a frontier, not a playground. Life here means battling the elements every day. That's why so much of this coastline remains untouched. Now let's head north to the Caspian coast, Shomel. The Alborz Mountains trap moisture, creating a narrow, lush plain of forests, rice fields, and tea gardens. The climate is mild and rainy, making it Iran's top domestic tourist spot. But the coastal plain is tiny, squeezed between mountains and sea, so there's little room for big cities. The land is precious for farming, so towns are small and set back from the shore. It's a region of villages, orchards, and a slower pace of life. The coast is beloved, but development is limited and spread out. Here, weather and farming still shape the rhythm of life. Both coasts face tough environmental challenges. In the south, it's relentless heat, scarce water, and salty soil, making farming nearly impossible. In the north, the Caspian's water levels rise and fall unpredictably, discouraging too much development right on the shore. Earthquakes, dust storms, and floods add to the struggle. For centuries, people here have adapted: fishing, farming, and trading, but nature does what it wants. The result? No sprawling beach cities, just resilient communities shaped by their environment. Iran's coasts are a testament to the power of geography and weather, and that's why even today, these beautiful shores remain some of the quietest on Earth. To understand Iran's quiet coasts, we need to go way back. For thousands of years, the heart of Persian civilization was on the vast inland plateau. This is where empires rose and fell. Cities like Isfahan and Shiraz were built far from the sea because the plateau offered a more moderate climate and was safer from naval invasions. Life on the plateau was more sustainable with better agriculture and water sources. The great Persian empires were land-based powers, controlling trade routes like the Silk Road. The focus was always inward, toward the heartland. This created a historical pattern of settlement tied to the highlands, pulling people inland, leaving the coasts less central. The coasts were important, especially the southern coast along the Persian Gulf. It was a vital link for maritime trade. Ancient ports connected Persia to India, Africa, and the Far East. This strategic importance also made the coasts a target. Iran's southern shores were a battleground for competing powers, from Arab caliphates to European colonial empires. Foreign powers would often invade and occupy the port cities. This made the coast a very unstable and dangerous place to live. The inland plateau was the safe, protected heartland. Even in the north along the Caspian Sea, there were similar issues with being a contested border area. In the 20th century, the discovery of oil transformed Iran's economy, especially near the Persian Gulf coast. This spurred growth in industrial cities like Abadan, focused on refineries and export terminals. Development was concentrated, not creating a diverse coastal society. The Iran-Iraq War devastated the southern coast, destroying cities and displacing populations. Recovery has focused on rebuilding oil infrastructure and securing ports. The South struggles to attract investment beyond energy, limiting coastal development. Let's examine Iran's economy, where jobs dictate where people live. Dominated by oil, the southern coast along the Persian Gulf is the center of the industry. The oil and gas industry has invested billions in developing areas, building ports, refineries, and petrochemical plants. These industrial complexes employ thousands and drive the national economy, fueling the growth of cities like Asaluya and Bandar Abbas. However, this focus creates economic tunnel vision. The oil industry dominates, hindering the growth of other sectors, like tourism. This creates uneven development. Pockets of wealth exist alongside underdeveloped areas, with prosperity not spreading evenly. Inland cities like Tehran offer more varied opportunities. Depending on a single resource is risky. Oil prices fluctuate, and international politics can change everything. This creates economic instability. Reliance on oil has hindered the development of a balanced economy. Now let's look at the other big coastal industry around the world: tourism. When you have beautiful coastlines like Iran does, you would think tourism would be a huge business. And well, there is some tourism, especially on the northern Caspian coast. As we talked about, it's the #1 vacation spot for Iranians themselves. Families from Tehran and other big cities flock to the Caspian shores to escape the summer heat and enjoy the green landscapes. They rent villas, eat at local restaurants, and relax by the sea. This creates a seasonal economy that supports hotels, shops, and services in towns like Ramsar and Chalas. But here's the rub. Even in the popular north, the tourism industry is not as developed as it could be. It's mostly geared towards domestic travelers, with infrastructure that can be basic compared to international standards. And in the south, despite having some of the most stunning natural beauty you can imagine, I'm talking about incredible islands like Keshm and Hormuz, with their otherworldly landscapes, coral reefs, and mangrove forests. International tourism is almost non-existent. The potential is absolutely huge. You could have world-class diving resorts, surfing, and historical tours. But the reality is that very few foreign tourists ever make it here. So why the disconnect? Several factors are at play. For one, there's the issue of accessibility and infrastructure. There aren't enough hotels, reliable transportation, or tour operators that cater to international visitors, especially in the more remote southern areas. There's also the challenge of cultural norms. Bikinis. The vibe on an Iranian beach is very different from, say, a beach in Mexico or Thailand. There are strict dress codes and rules about activities, which can be shocking for many international tourists. While these rules are part of the local culture, they do limit the development of a mainstream global beach tourism industry. Most importantly, the government's economic focus has historically been on heavy industry and resource extraction, not on the soft industry of tourism. Developing a world-class tourism sector requires a huge investment in marketing, hospitality training, and preserving natural sites. It requires an open and welcoming international posture. While there have been pushes to grow tourism, it has never been the top priority. As a result, this incredible economic potential remains largely untapped, and the jobs and development that would come with it haven't materialized, leaving the coasts much quieter than they otherwise would be. We can't talk about Iran's economy and development without mentioning the impact of decades of international sanctions. These economic restrictions have had a profound effect on the entire country, but they hit the coastal regions, which are so dependent on international trade and investment, particularly hard. Sanctions make it incredibly difficult for Iran to attract foreign investment for big projects. A European hotel chain, for example, would face huge obstacles if it wanted to build a five-star resort on the Persian Gulf coast. This lack of foreign capital has starved the region of the funds needed for major development outside the state-controlled oil sector. The sanctions also have a huge impact on infrastructure. Building and maintaining modern ports, airports, roads, and communication networks requires access to international technology, equipment, and spare parts. When that access is restricted, things start to fall behind. It becomes harder and more expensive to upgrade a regional airport to handle international flights or to build a high-speed rail line connecting the coast to the interior. This creates a significant infrastructure gap. While the main highways are generally good, the smaller coastal roads and public transport options in remote areas can be lacking, making travel and commerce more difficult. This economic isolation also affects ordinary people and small businesses. It limits their access to global markets, financial services, and even simple things like online payment platforms. Imagine trying to run a small tour company or sell local handicrafts online when you're cut off from the main channels of international e-commerce. It's incredibly challenging. This forces the coastal economy to be very inward-looking, relying almost entirely on the domestic market. While there's resilience and great ideas, it pretty much limits the scale and scope of what's possible, preventing the kind of growth that would draw more people to the coast. Ultimately, this combination of a dominant oil industry, underdeveloped tourism, and the overarching effects of international sanctions has created a challenging economic environment along Iran's coasts. It has slowed development, limited opportunities, and reinforced the historical pattern of the population being concentrated inland. For the coasts to truly blossom, it would require a major shift, a diversification away from oil, a significant investment in tourism and other industries, and a huge change in the international political climate. Until then, these beautiful shorelines will likely remain an economic frontier, full of potential, but waiting for their moment to arrive. Life on the coast just moves to a different beat. It's true everywhere, and Iran is no exception. The Bandari people of the southern coast have a wonderfully distinct culture shaped by the sea and trade. This has created a unique identity that you can see and feel as soon as you arrive. It's a fascinating mix of Persian, Arab, African, and Indian influences, visible in the architecture and traditional clothing. In the south, like these women, they wear brightly colored floral chadors and a distinctive decorated face covering called a borage. The languages and dialects you hear are also different. Along the southern coast, you'll hear people speaking in Bandari, a dialect filled with words borrowed from Arabic, Baluchi, and even some Swahili and Hindi. Up north, on the Caspian coast, there's another distinct regional culture. The Gilaki and Mazandarani have their own languages, traditions, and a fierce pride in their green homeland. Their culture is deeply tied to the land. Okay, you know this is my favorite part. Let's talk about the food. The cuisine on Iran's coasts is a whole different universe from the kebabs and stews you might know as classic Persian food. Down south, the food is all about the bounty of the Persian Gulf. It's spicy, bold, and packed with flavor. The star is fresh fish and shrimp, cooked in amazing ways. Up north, on the Caspian shore, the food is completely different again. Here, the flavors are more subtle, sour, and herb-like. The combination of fresh herbs, sour flavors from pomegranate or Seville oranges, and the extensive use of garlic creates a cuisine that is light, aromatic, and incredibly fresh. The dramatic difference between the spicy, bold flavors of the south and the sour, herb-flavored notes of the north shows how daily life and culture are shaped by the local geography. The culture of the coast isn't just something you see or taste. It's something you can hear. The music of southern Iran, the Bandari music, is infectious, with a rhythm and soul that is completely different from the classical music of the Persian heartland. It's driven by energetic drum beats and has a joyful, danceable feel. The music reflects the region's cultural melting pot, with influences from Africa and the Arabian Peninsula. It's music for celebration and community. You hear it at weddings and festivals. It captures the energetic spirit of the Bandari people, a sound born from the sea. This culture comes alive during local festivals like the Fisherman's New Year, with music, dancing, and special feasts. These cultural expressions are a core part of the coastal identity. It's a culture of a specific place, a unique history, and a oneness with the ocean. All right, for all you nature lovers out there, this is the part that's going to get you really excited. When you think of the hot, arid southern coast of Iran, you might not immediately think of a thriving world of wildlife. But you would be wrong. The Persian Gulf and the Sea of Oman are teeming with life. The warm, clear waters are home to beautiful coral reefs, especially around islands like Kish and Keshem. One of the most magical experiences you can have here is seeing the sea turtles. Several species come to nest on Iran's southern shores. The Persian Gulf is also home to a surprising number of marine mammals. You can often spot pods of dolphins leaping through the waves. The real secret jewel of the southern coast, though, has to be the Hara mangrove forest on Keshem Island. This is a massive forest where the trees grow directly out of the saltwater. These mangroves are a critical habitat and providing a vital sanctuary for an incredible number of bird species. Now let's head north to the green Caspian coast. The Caspian region, with its lush wetlands, is a paradise for birds and one of the most important locations in the world for migratory birds. For any birdwatching enthusiast, this place is a dream come true. You can see huge flocks of flamingos, swans, geese, ducks, and Siberian cranes. The Caspian Sea is home to unique creatures like the sturgeon, now critically endangered due to overfishing and pollution. The Hyrcanian forests are home to mammals like the rare and elusive Persian leopard, brown bears, and wild boars. The coastal wetlands are also home to the endangered Caspian seal. These natural attractions make Iran's northern coast a treasure trove for any traveler who loves to explore the wild side of our planet. So what's the bottom line? Can you afford a trip to Iran? I did some homework. Let's imagine a one-week trip for one person from Los Angeles to Tehran. The flight might cost between $1,200 and $1,800. A decent hotel in Tehran might run you $50 to $100 per night. You can eat like a king for very little money. A delicious meal might only cost you $10 to $15. Renting a car could cost around $250 to $350 a week. So the flight at $1,500, hotel at $400, food at $280, and a rental car at $300. That's roughly $2,570 for a one-week adventure. Add extra for souvenirs. Important for Americans, British, and Canadians, you must travel with an approved guide. This adds to the cost, but you'll have a local expert with you. All right, beyond the costs, there are some really important things to know if you're seriously thinking about an adventure to Iran's coasts. First and foremost, visas. For many nationalities, getting a visa is straightforward, but for Americans, Brits, and Canadians, it's more complicated. You must book a tour with a government-approved travel agency, and they will handle your visa application. You cannot travel independently. Start this process many months in advance, as it can take time. It's a hurdle for sure, but for a determined traveler, it's manageable. Think of it as part of the adventure. Next, let's talk about money. Due to international sanctions, foreign credit cards and debit cards will not work in Iran. At all. This is a big one. You have to bring all the money you'll need in cash, preferably in crisp US dollars or euros. You can exchange this for Iranian rials once you're there. Your guide or hotel can help you find a reputable exchange office. It feels old school to travel with that much cash, but it's the only way. Plan your budget carefully and bring more than you think you'll need. It's essential to be respectful of local customs. Iran is an Islamic republic with rules for all visitors. For women, this means wearing a headscarf and modest clothing covering arms and legs. For men, shorts are generally not acceptable. Public displays of affection are frowned upon, and alcohol is illegal. Reading up on these norms beforehand will keep you out of trouble and show respect for the local culture. Finally, a bit of news you should know. It's critical to check your government's travel advisories before booking a trip. For U.S. citizens, the State Department has a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory for Iran. This is the highest warning level, citing risks of wrongful detention. This is a serious consideration you absolutely must take into account, especially after getting bombed in June of 2025. While many travelers visit without incident, it's crucial to be aware of the official guidance and potential risks involved. So here we are, at the end of our journey along the coasts of Iran. We've traveled from the green shores of the Caspian Sea in the north to the deserts of the Persian Gulf in the south. There isn't one simple answer to why these coasts are so quiet. It's a story of geography, climate, and history. Modern life and the focus on the oil industry has left vast stretches of the coast untouched. Iran's coastlines are a world away from the crowded shores we see elsewhere else. Iran's coasts offer a glimpse of something raw, authentic, and truly wild. It's quiet, and it has an untamed natural beauty. The rewards are endless. As we end this journey to Iran's coast, let's look forward to our next adventure. Now, who has time to travel?